Oh, welcome back. This is the Mrs. Flowers Blackout Poetry Activity, Connotation versus Denotation. Let's get into it. So, the first thing I wanted to do was just quickly review Mrs. Flowers, which is about Marguerite. All right, I would like you to circle Marguerite with some, let's go with purple. And I'd like you to circle that halo around her head like that. That's Marguerite. She hasn't been wanting to talk, but she is now in the presence of Mrs. Flowers. And I'd like you to get the whole chair here. And Mrs. Flowers, her book, a little bit of the words sort of coming out like a musical tongue. All right, perfect. And what she's doing is she's inspiring Marguerite to finally use her voice again. It's one thing to read books, says Mrs. Flowers, it's another thing to read them aloud. So she has invited her for tea and cookies. You can go ahead and put a little outline there around a little snack that they were all enjoying, lemonade and tea cookies. And the last thing are the books and the music and the speaking that's illustrated here. And I'd like you to put a little purple border around that. Now, when you make a blackout poem, you black out all of the negative space besides what you want to highlight, what you want to emphasize. Well, what I'd like you to do is to go to this dot, make it enormous, and I'd like you to black out everything outside of these one, two, three, four borders. And we're going to see what this painting looks like after we take advantage of some negative space. So take the time to do that now. It'll take you a little bit longer because I'm so expert at it. Not exactly perfect. Okay. And now we have a very different work of art because we're emphasizing different things, right? And maybe you make a mistake like Mr. Surface does and you want to correct it a little bit, right? Oh, maybe I want to show a little bit more of the picture here, right? There we are. Oh, let me show a few more books. There we are. Boom. So now I have a very different painting. I have this sort of disembodied singing, reading woman. I have this snack floating beneath this haloed girl's head, right? It's a very different thing, but it still captures a lot of the ideas and puts them in a sharper relief. Head on to slide 2. So let's take a moment and think about some of the negative connotations and positive connotations from a passage we're about to look at together. Take a moment and I'd like you to drag the red to the negative connotations. I'd like you to drag the blue to the positive connotations. And I'd like you to drag the gray to the neutral connotations. Take a moment to do that now. All right. That means worst, oh sure, negative connotation. Least, very similar. Times or pages, no, not good or bad necessarily. So I'm going to put it by pages. And singing tends to be positive, as does wonder. Cascading could move over there possibly. Now let's try it with the full passage. Quoting, "It was the best of times and the worst of times." Her voice slid in and curved down through and over the words. She was nearly singing. I wanted to look at the pages. Were they the same that I had read? Or were there notes, music, lined on the pages as in a hymn book? Her sounds began cascading gently. I knew from listening to 1,000 preachers that she was nearing the end of her reading, and I hadn't really heard her to understand a single word. How do you like that? It occurred to me that she expected a response. The sweet vanilla flavor was still on my tongue, and her reading was a wonder in my ears. I had to speak. I said, "Yes, ma'am." It was the least I could do, but it was the most also. Take a moment, and I'd like you to find two negative connotations, two positive connotations, and one neutral connotation. Take the time to do so now, please. Right. Well, for me, positive, him. For me, positive, music. For me, negative, worst. And for me, negative, least. And neutral, expected. Right? So maybe I want to go with those words when I make my blackout poetry on the final slide, slide 5. Right? And it says here to highlight the strongest connotations in red. Well, I'm going to turn on my highlighter, turn on red, and I'm going to find the word worst. I'm going to keep that in there. I'm going to find the word least and keep that in there. Then I'm going to switch over to positive. I definitely want to go with him. I definitely want to go with music. But I also want to go with this phrase here, cascading gently. Nice. Any other positive words? Sure. I see wonder is a positive word for me. And I see best of times. That's positive too. Her voice slid in and down now. I got to find one kind of neutral. So I've got to go over to gray. Here's a gray. One gray word I might just keep around. About a single word. Now, I got to switch over to pencil. Make this smaller. Shrink it down to like this size. And now I'm going to switch it over to black. And I'm going to make my blackout poem. That means that I'm going to leave only the words in that I want to emphasize, and that'll become a new poem, a new piece of work. So let's take a moment now, and you can see what I do. And then I'd like you to do your own. So don't copy me for the black part. Don't copy the black. You can certainly steal my blue, gray, and red, but don't copy the black. Just observe, and then you'll be doing your own. I'm going to leave 1,000 preachers, and I'm going to leave. Oops, let's undo that last one. All right, now let's take a look at what my poem looks like. Just reading the stuff that I haven't crossed out. All right, let's take a look, take a listen. The best of times, the worst of times, her voice nearly singing. I wanted to look at the pages. Were they the same music? Him, cascading gently, 1,000 preachers, single word, wonder in my ears, the least I could do. I'm very happy with my poem. But first, I want to draw or give them a little image that matches it on the left. You'll be doing the same sort of thing. So let's go ahead and give myself space to work. Since my last step is making this little picture. All right. And my picture is going to be of music. Specifically, it's going to be a musical note. So let me shrink this down just a little bit. All right. I'll do this like that. Make the fancy little notes. But I'm also going to put a little smile there and a little nose like a rest. Ooh, and I'm going to put little eyes. And I'm going to highlight it all purple. And I call this one, oh, let me give it a little frame. And I'm now completed my poem. You're going to use negative space to complete your poem too, to analyze this key passage. And then you'll have your own poem on the right, and you'll have a little illustration on the left, and then you'll be done. Good luck.